With markets being through very turbulent, uncertain times, lots of tensions on the economic front, rising inflation, increasing rates, this is really a good time to get your strategy in place. Do message us on the numbers on your screen and we will take a few queries every week. Our first question today, and let's bring that one up for you. We've got Mausumi Chakraborty from Bangalore, and her query is on one of the old giants, ONGC.
Hi Udayan, this is Mashmi here from Bangalore. I have 200 shares of ONGC bought at 161. Now my query is, though the crude oil prices are going up, but this particular share is showing a downtrend. Please advise whether to hold or to sell. Thank you so much.
Well, it's unfortunate what's happened with ONGC, because you're right in your expectation that higher crude prices would translate into higher profits for ONGC. But that's not going to be the case because of the recent imposition of the windfall tax that the government has brought about and the tax on the cess on crude, which basically means that when crude prices are down, ONGC does not do well. And when crude prices are higher, then the government takes away the excess profit because it believes that it's an unfair generation of profit relative to what else is going on with the economy. The stock went up almost to 200 rupees earlier in the year, and that's because of expectations that people like you had that higher crude would generate higher profits. And now that does not seem to be the case any longer. We've seen the stock go back, collapse to about 120. The right way to look at ONGC is not through the prism of valuations, because it is always a cheap stock. It pays about 15% kind of dividend yield. The P multiples are 2 and 3. But the fact is that the core business of oil production is not ramping up significantly. And government policy and ad hoc government policy is a huge hangover over the stock, which is why most investors tend to stay away from this name. So I'm afraid I cannot tell you hand on heart that it's a stock you should hold on to and you'll get your price back very soon. In fact, if there are any kind of crude price related up moves in the stock, I think you should consider probably lightening up or exiting that company and look at some of the better companies in the market to look at. This is not, of course, an active advice to sell, but I am very circumspect about the prospects of PSU upstream oil companies like ONGC even going forward.
Vasudev Nandan is also sent in a query from Greater Noida. This one is on Nazara Tech. Let's listen in.
Dear Mr. Udayan, I am Vasudev Nandan from Greater Noida. I have 85 shares of Nazara Technology purchased at the rate of Rs 2033. Now the rates have come down. What to do now? Please advise. Thank you.
Well, it will take a very long time, sir, to get back to your price, if ever, of Nazara Technology. You've bought at the absolute peak. The stock has crumbled, losing more than half its value this year, down to 600-700 rupees. Part of it is, of course, to do with the overall drawdown in valuations in the digital space. Every digital stock has got hammered. And as you know, Nazara is an online sports company. But esports is basically its business. And the business itself is not too bad, because earlier they would sell through OTT players. Now they are also going to be shown on Star Sports, and we'll see how the monetization of those esports programs actually work out on mainstream television. But it's a profitable company. It's not one of those digital companies which does not make any money. Nazara actually is profitable. But the fact that the starting point of valuations had become very high. So what has happened over the last year or so is that the froth in valuations has got completely hammered. I don't think Nazara qualifies as a super expensive stock any longer, but there are lots of question marks on growth and whether this is the best company to buy in the online gaming space. I would say that if you get a good rally or a pullback, which happens in many of these bombed out stocks, you might consider exiting Nazara as well and looking at some of the other companies because I think the better companies in the gaming space are yet not listed, and over the next couple of years, market conditions permitting, you will find more of those companies doing their IPOs, and those might present better opportunities. Again, not an active selling advice, but I'm not very hopeful that you will get your price back anytime soon.
Moving on to Surat, Kalpesh Kacharya has a query on Cummins. Let's hear him out.
Good evening, sir. I am Kalpesh Kacharya from Surat. I am your regular follower last 20 years. I am always regular watching your view upon the market. And now my question is, I have 100 share of Qmeans at the rate 1,140 rupees. So when I book the profit, and now the capital sector is doing good, and the government also spending lots of investment in the infrastructure and capital goods sector. So what is the view upon the your capital sector?
I like the sector. As you mentioned, it's not doing badly. You've bought close to the recent highs for Cummins, so you will have to wait a bit patiently for the profits to come by. But they will come, I think, because the space is doing well. Cummins itself is up 30% over the last 1 year, so you can see that the market is responding to prospects for this company and the order book. The stock price has been in a range. I mean, Cummins for the longest time, last 6-7 years, despite being a good company, has been in a broad range of 600 to 900 rupees. But now it's threatening to break out of the trading range at around 1100 or so. But I think the market is quite optimistic about prospects, both for diesel engines, which Cummins makes, and also for the power generation and distribution equipment it is present in. There were a couple of hurdles with Cummins in terms of the semiconductor shortage, which led to some issues, and also their margins were a bit under pressure because of the spike in metal prices. But both these issues seem to be getting addressed right now, raising prospects of greater profitability in the quarters to come. And I think you should expect 25% plus kind of growth for Cummins over the next couple of years quite easily. So I would not be in a hurry to book profits in this company. I think it's probably going to be a breakout of a range after many years, and the coming couple of years, 2-3 years, look promising.
And Mickey Singh in Mumbai has a query on Tanla Platforms. Let's listen into what her query is around this stock.
Hi. Tanla Platforms has corrected 50%. Is it a buy, sell, or a hold? Thank you.
Well, it's a tough one because I think Tanla's biggest problem was that it was a super expensive stock. But as you said, the stock has more than halved, and therefore a lot of the valuation froth has gone away from Tanla. But I think the bigger question, other than valuations, is whether Tanla can continue to exhibit the kind of growth that it has exhibited over the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, as you would know as an investor, Tanla's revenues went up 3 times in the last 3 years. And as you also know, it is, I mean, to oversimplify, it is a play on the SMS economy, but it calls its products CPaaS, which is Communication Platform as a Service. But basically, every time you make a transaction and you have to get an OTP, Tanla more times than not is behind that OTP which is being generated. So it benefits every time there is some kind of SMS involved in the financial landscape. And the question is, because technologies like WhatsApp are sort of replacing SMS in such a big way, whether Tanla can continue to ride the crest of the wave it has been riding over the last 3 years or so. This is of course an oversimplification of its business model because it has a successful enterprise business as well. Personally, I believe that it's a reasonably good management. It's a strong technology company. And while growth might moderate in the next few years, I still think it will be a fast growing company. And given that the valuation correction has been fairly significant, it might be approaching interesting levels for accumulation for slightly medium-term investors. So the time to sell Tanla probably is gone. The price correction has already happened. Now it's a question of whether you believe in the growth prospect and whether you start to look at opportunities to accumulate that company once again in the triple digits over the next few months or so.
And that's how we leave it on the show today. But do keep sending in those queries, and we'll take a few every week. Udayan, thanks for answering all of those questions this week on Ask Udayan. Thanks for watching.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.